A single lychee, still cool from the mountains, carried 1,000 miles by riders who ran their horses to death so it would reach her lips before it could spoil all for one woman's smile. And a few short years later, on a dusty road out of a burning capital, that same all-powerful emperor will place a length of white silk into a servant's hands and turn his face away, so that he does not have to watch her die. Between the fruit and the silk lies the most beautiful woman an age could agree upon, a monster she rocked in her arms like a child, and tens of millions dead. History calls her the face that toppled an empire. But history, as always, is only telling you the half that lets the men walk away clean.
Femme fatale histories. The women history called wicked, and what they actually did. Tonight, Yang Guifei, the concubine so beautiful an emperor forgot he had an empire to rule.
First, where and when are we? China, the middle of the 8th century. The Tang Dynasty, at the very summit of its golden age, the richest, most dazzling empire on earth, its capital Chang'an the largest city in the world. 1 million souls behind its walls. Persian merchants, Turkic guardsmen, poets, dancers, silk the color of every dawn. And on the throne, an emperor 30 years into a brilliant reign, Xuanzong, the brilliant monarch.
Sounds like the best time and place to be alive.
For a man, perhaps. For a woman, beauty was the only currency that spent, and the empire had already decided what its most beautiful woman ought to look like.
Let me guess, thin, pale, fragile.
The opposite. Tang taste ran to the full-figured and the radiant, a face like the round moon. They spoke of 4 great beauties across all of history, women so lovely that nature itself lost its nerve. 1, they said, so fair the very flowers folded their petals in shame to be seen beside her. Tradition would paint her full-figured and radiant, her skin like warm jade, quick and playful of tongue, and so gifted at the peeper and the dance that an entire court would fall silent to watch her. That one had not yet been born. When she was, they would give her a name that still means flawless jade beauty, 14 centuries later. Yang Yuhuan. She did not arrive at the palace as a bride for the emperor. She arrived as his daughter-in-law. At 16 she was married to one of Xuanzong's own sons, Prince Shou, and by every account the young couple were happy. Then the emperor's most beloved consort died, and the most powerful man in the world fell into a grief nothing could reach, until someone at court whispered that his son's wife was the loveliest creature in the empire.
His son's wife. He didn't.
He did. But an emperor cannot simply take his own son's bride, even in Tang China that was a scandal too naked to survive. So they invented a way to launder it. She was quietly ordered to become a Taoist priestess, to leave the world and take a holy name. On paper, the marriage dissolved. She belonged to no man now, only to heaven. And a few years later, heaven's newest nun walked out of the temple and straight into the emperor's bed.
So the law didn't stop him. It just gave him a clean way to do it.
That is what law is for, in a court like this. She was raised to the highest rank a woman could hold below Empress Guifei, the precious consort. The empress's throne he left conspicuously empty. She did not need the title. She had him. What followed was one of the great love stories the Chinese language ever set down, and one of the great derelictions of duty. 3,000 beauties in the harem, the poet wrote, and the love ode to 3,000 fell upon one body alone. He built her pavilions. He learned her music and composed for her. They say she danced the rainbow skirt while the emperor himself kept the time, a sovereign and his consort playing at being 2 ordinary people in love.
That's genuinely sweet. Where's the knife?
The knife is in the cost. She loved the lychee fruit of the far south, which rots within days of the branch. So the emperor built a relay of riders, spurring horses to death, day and night, across half a continent, to lay fresh lychees at her door.
For fruit.
For her. A single rider, red dust rising, and the consort smiles, and no one in the realm knows the lychees have come. And while the empire paid, her family climbed. Her sisters were made great ladies of the realm. One, they whispered, rode barefaced to the palace gates, too sure of her own beauty to bother with paint.
And the barefaced sister riding in to turn the emperor's head too. One Yang in his bed clearly wasn't enough for him.
And her cousin was lifted to chief minister of the empire, Yang Guifei, greedy, hated, and now second only to the throne. The house of Yang was everywhere. And the brilliant monarch stopped watching over his empire, because he could not stop watching her. Into this perfumed court rode the most dangerous man in the empire, and Yang Guifei took him for a pet. His name was An Lushan, a general of the northern frontier, half Sogdian, half Turk, enormously fat, enormously charming, and commanding more soldiers than any man alive.
And she liked him?
She adored him. This mountain of a man, years older than she was, asked to become her adopted son, and she agreed. And the court played the game to its grotesque end. On the third day, as one does with a newborn, the palace ladies bathed him.
Wait. They bathed a grown general. Like a baby.
Wrapped him in an enormous infant swaddling, washed him in a great basin, and carried him through the palace in a litter while the court shrieked with laughter. The emperor heard, came to watch, and rewarded everyone for the joke. What the emperor laughed at, the palace whispered about.
You think there was something between them?
I think the sources are a little too careful, and the whispers a little too loud. What is certain is this: she drew the empire's deadliest soldier into the very heart of the palace, made him a beloved son, and made her cousin, the chief minister, his mortal enemy.
Adopted son by day, the whole palace whispering by night. Say it plainly, Sonia, half of them thought she'd taken that fat general to her bed.
In the winter of 755, that soldier marched. 150,000 men, turning south toward the capital, beneath a banner that read, "To save the empire from the traitor Yang." The empire was unready. Long peace had made it soft. The rebel army rolled over the great eastern capital and turned for Chang'an itself. And the brilliant monarch, now 70 years old, did the one thing an emperor must never do: he ran. In the dark, with his consort and a thin guard, west toward the mountains. A day out, at a squalid posting station called Mawei, the exhausted soldiers stopped. And would not go on.
A mutiny.
First they came for the cousin. They cut down Chief Minister Yang Guifei in the road and raised his head on a spear. But the fury had a deeper root, and it would not settle. The soldiers turned to face their emperor, and demanded the one thing left.
Horror.
The root of the disaster, they said, is still here. They would not march another step while she breathed. And the most powerful man on earth stood in the dust and understood that he could keep his empire, or his beloved, but not both. He gave the order. They led her to a little Buddhist shrine beside the road. A servant looped a cord of white silk about her throat, and the woman an empire had ridden horses to death to please was gone, at 37, in the dirt, so that the army would move again. The emperor did not watch. They say he never truly stopped weeping after. The war she is blamed for burned on for 8 more years. When at last it ended, the empire counted its people, and found tens of millions simply gone, dead, scattered, uncounted. By the census, the deadliest catastrophe the world had yet recorded. And the golden age of the Tang never came back.
So it isn't just a figure of speech, she actually cost them the map.
Not a figure of speech at all. The empire that had once reached the deserts of Central Asia lost the western regions and the Silk Road to the Tibetans, and never took them back, while the north broke into warlord provinces that no longer obeyed the throne. Look at what the Tang held before her, and after. In the most literal sense the words allow, she is the beauty who toppled a kingdom. So the histories reached their verdict, and it was the verdict they always reach. She was the disaster beauty, the woman so lovely she toppled a state, exactly as fox-spirited concubines had toppled dynasties in every cautionary tale told before her.
And the emperor who abandoned his empire to play music? The minister who misruled it? The general who actually raised the army?
Men. Men make mistakes, and the histories forgive men their mistakes. But a woman is not permitted a mistake, only a temptation. It is so much tidier to say the empire fell because she was beautiful, than to admit it fell because the men who ran it stopped doing their jobs. She held no office. She commanded no soldiers. She raised no rebellion. Her entire crime was to be loved too well by a man who happened to hold the world and to be the easiest name to carve on the ruins. So who was she, really? Not a schemer. A gifted musician and a dancer, married off at 16, handed from a son to his father, given every jewel in the empire and no power to refuse a single one of them. She could shape a melody. She could not shape her own fate for even one day.
She never chose a single thing that happened to her, did she? Not the marriage, not the temple, not the emperor. Not even the silk.
Not one. And perhaps that is why the man who could have saved her, and did not, spent the rest of his life unable to let her go. He abdicated, broken. He sent a priest to search heaven and earth for her spirit. The greatest poet of the age set it down as the song of everlasting regret, the emperor finding her at last on a misted immortal isle, the two of them vowing to be, in heaven, two birds sharing a single wing, on earth, two branches grown into one. This regret, it ends, stretches on, and never comes to an end.
An isle in the sea. That's where the other story starts, isn't it?
It is. Because some could not bear that she died in the dirt at Mawei, and so they said she did not. That a maid died in her place, and Yang Guifei was carried by ship across the eastern sea, to Japan, where to this day a quiet seaside town keeps a tomb they say is hers, and a shrine remembers her not as a disaster, but as a goddess. The woman the histories called the ruin of an empire worshipped, across the water, as divine. She was neither the first nor the last. Every throne a woman was forbidden to sit upon found a way, sooner or later, to blame one for its fall. Helen of Troy, the face the Greeks said launched 1,000 ships and burned a city to the waterline, as though a war fought by kings were somehow her doing. Deji, in ancient China, blamed for the fall of the Shang and remade by legend into a literal fox demon. And far to the west and centuries later, Guinevere, whose love for a knight is blamed for shattering the Round Table and bringing all of Camelot down with it. Roxolana, a captured slave girl, rose to rule beside the greatest of the Ottoman sultans and was blamed for the blood spilled in his palace and the long dusk that fell over the empire after him.
Different empires, different gods, 1,000 years and half a world apart, and always the exact same verdict. It was the woman.
Always. And you will still meet Yang Guifei's ghost everywhere, in verses every schoolchild learns, on the no stage, in films from Mizoguchi to today, and in games from Fate Grand Order to Puzzle and Dragons, where she returns as a goddess of impossible beauty. Rarely the ruler of her own story. Always the most beautiful thing in the room.
Yang Guifei, the most beautiful woman an age could agree on, and the easiest name to blame when the men who ruled the world let it burn. She chose none of it, and history handed her all of it. Next time, another woman they called wicked, Lucrezia Borgia, the Pope's own daughter, whose name became a byword for poison and seduction in a family that treated both as ordinary tools of state. Tell me below, did Yang Guifei topple an empire, or did an empire simply need a beautiful face to blame? See you next time.